Om Jnana Timirandasya Hinanjana Shalakaya Chaturmiritam Jaina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rubhagara Mayam Dadati Swabharantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Paragamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Ragalatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Samadu Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakopajubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Om Namah Ramachaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Bhagavad Utama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Today, Thursday, January 15th, 2026, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 1, The Activities of Maharaj Priyabrata. And this is text number 6. So I'm just going to chant the Sanskrit repetition because it's not in shloka form, but it's rather in prose form, and it's rather long to run together. As you can see, and so there's no obvious natural division points for padas, but rather it's a paragraph or prosaic paragraph, which states, Yarhi Bhavaharajan Rajaputra Priyabrata Parama Bhagavato Naradasya Charanopasevayam Jasavagata Paramartha Sat Tatvo Brahma Satrena Dikshishamano Vanitala Paripalan Yamanat Palaya Yamamnata Pravaraguna Ganaikanta Bhajanantayaswa Titropa Mandrito Bhagavati Vasudeva Eva Yavadhana Samadhi Jogena Samabheshita Sukala Karaka Kriya Kalapo Naivabhyanandad Yadyapitad Apratyam Nat Tavyamatat Adhikarana Atmano Nyasmad Asato Pipara Bhavam and Vikshamanaha. Right, in one breath. And we will skip the synonyms because they are lengthy, just in the interest of time. In the translation, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, Prince Priyabrata was a great devotee because he sought the lotus feet of Narada, his spiritual master, and thus achieved the highest perfection in transcendental knowledge. With advanced knowledge, he always engaged in discussing spiritual subjects and did not divert his attention to anything else. The prince's father then asked him to take charge of ruling the world. He tried to convince Priyabrata that this was his duty, as indicated in the revealed scriptures. Prince Priyavrata, however, was continuously practicing bhakti yoga by constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. Therefore, although the orders of his father could not be rejected, the prince did not welcome it. Thus, he very conscientiously raised the question of whether he might be diverted from devotional service by accepting the responsibility of ruling over the world. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Jadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Payechikeva. Without serving the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava or spiritual master, no one has ever attained perfect liberation from material bondage. Prince Priyavrata regularly served the lotus feet of Narada, and thus the prince perfectly understood transcendental subjects in truth, satatvaha. The word satatvaha means that Priyavrata knew all the facts about the spirit soul, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the relationship between the spirit soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he also knew all about this material world and the relationship of the spirit soul and the Supreme Lord in the material world. Thus, the prince decided to engage himself only in rendering service to the Lord. When Priyavrata requested him to accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, he did not welcome the suggestion. This is a symptom of a great liberated devotee. Even though engaged in worldly affairs, he does not take pleasure in them, but remains always absorbed in the Lord's service. While thus serving the Lord, he deals externally with worldly affairs without being affected. For example, although he has no attraction for his children, he cares for them and educates them to become devotees. Similarly, he speaks to his wife with affectionate words, but he is not attached to her, and she knows it. By rendering devotional service, a devotee acquires all the good qualities of the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives, all of them very beautiful. And although he dealt with each of them as a beloved husband, he was not attracted or attached to any of them. In the same way, although a devotee may enter family life and act very affectionately towards his wife and children, he is never attached to these activities. This verse states that by serving the lotus feet of his spiritual master, Prince Priyavrata very soon attained the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. This is the only way to advance in spiritual life. As stated in the Vedas, Yasya devi parha bhaktir yatha devi tata gurau tasyaiti katita hyartha prakashante mahatmanaha. If one has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is revealed to him. Sweta Swatara Upanishad 6:23. A devotee thinks of the Lord continuously. While chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the words Krishna and Hare immediately remind him of all the activities. Since his entire life is engaged in the service of the Lord, a devotee cannot forget the Lord at any time. Just as an ordinary man always engages his mind in material activities, a devotee always engages his mind in spiritual activities. This is called Brahmasatra, or meditating upon the Supreme Lord always. Prince Priyavrata was perfectly initiated into this practice by Narada. Mukham karoti bachalam bhangam lagayati girim jatvipa tamaham vande digurum niratarinum. So, very interesting verse and very enlightening purport, full of many realizations based on Shastra and the previous acharyas and Srila Prabhupada's own powerful realizations. This is fifth canto, so this is probably 1973, 1973, 74, something like that. So by that time, Prabhupada had successfully preached the Krishna consciousness movement and spread it all over the world, beginning with the incorporation of ISKCON in 1966 up to 1973. So 7 years he was already traveling around the world, initiating thousands of devotees, writing thousands of letters, publishing all the volumes of Bhagavatam up to this canto. So his experience and his realization was, and it's on display here in this purport, is very developed and very focused. And the purports in the fourth canto are just dynamite, just packed full of knowledge and realization. And that is continuing here into the fifth canto. And that is no surprise, because that is Srila Prabhupada, an empowered preacher. You know, Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of all the Vedas and the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is called the literary incarnation of God. So we can only imagine his level of realization and understanding of the truths of Vedic knowledge, referred to in this verse here, Tattvataha. So similarly, we can view Srila Prabhupada as an empowered literary figure as well, because he has compiled into English the essence of the Vedas in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the next level of highest nectar, which is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So clearly he is an empowered literary representative of the Lord as well, analogously to Srila Vyasadeva. So this we can understand by reading Prabhupada's books and seeing what he has done and seeing the great extent and depth of his literary output, which was mostly all done in a 10-year span. So, though this purport mentions that the devotee, he develops the good qualities of God, and that is stated a little bit further on in the 10th canto, Yasyastir Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana Savayar Ganas Tatra Samasate Suraha Harava Bhaktasya Kato Mahadguna Marolate Nasati Davato Bahi. So one who is Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati, who is performing devotional service, bhakti, unto Bhagavat, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord. Savayar Ganas, all the good qualities. Sarva means all, and guna, Savayar Ganas Tatra. Therefore, all the good qualities that you see, Samasate Siraha, that are manifest in the demigods. And Srila Prabhupada further elaborates on that, including knowledge and religion. So understanding the truth and manifesting reflecting a high level of the qualities of the Supreme Lord, of which the living entity has a potency of reaching, what is it, 78% or something, 70%, in the nectar of devotion. So there's a mathematical figure given that the living entity can develop so much of a percentage of the qualities of the Lord, but then the qualities of the Lord go on even further. So, but you can get pretty high in connection with Krishna. Savayar Ganais, all those good qualities become manifest in the body of a person who is a 10% devotee. Bhakti Bhagavati. Akinchana. Akinchana means without anything else. Not with that by strength of mundane knowledge, or by strength of speculative knowledge, or by strength of yoga, practicing yoga, or by strength of having many possessions and being very rich, or famous, or powerful, or beautiful. Janmai Sharya Shuddha Shibir. Hidamadam Malak Punam. Naivahar Abidatum Phai. Tom Akinchana Gocharam. That's brought up by Queen Kunti. That those who are attempting to elevate themselves to achieve janma, good birth, Aishvarya, opulence or wealth, Shruta, which means learning, and Shribir, possessing great bodily beauty, which you can attain those things by good karma. You won't get them next week, but you can get it in your next life, for example, by punya. But those who are attempting to elevate themselves to achieve those things, birth, opulence, learning, and bodily beauty, they cannot attract the love and attention of the Supreme Lord, but rather those who are tvam akinchana gocharam, those who have nothing other than Krishna, those who have nothing other than Krishna's lotus feet. They can attain that higher destination. And Prabhupada refers to this verse from the Swaita Upanishad, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tatagara Tasyaiti Katita Hyarta Prakashante Mahatmanaha. That for one, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir, one who has great devotion to Deva, to God, Yata Devi Tatagara, and just as one has that devotion to God, Yata Devi Tatagara, to the spiritual master, then all the imports of Vedic knowledge become manifest in the heart of such a person. Prakashante, prakash means manifest. So that realization of the truth of the personality of Godhead becomes manifest to one who has great devotion both for the Lord and for the spiritual master, which is mentioned, of course, in this verse, that Priyavrata, he is a disciple of Sri Narada Muni, and because of his great attention to the instructions of Sri Narada, when it comes time for the Swayambhuva Manu to ask him, all right, now you take over the position of emperor of the universe, more or less, so to speak, then he didn't want to reject the order of his father, because that is not proper for one who is learned and situated, especially in the Kshatriya dynasties. One has to take up that service. But he was already fully advanced and realized in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, when asked to take on the job of being a great monarch in a big palace, and of course it means you have to be married. You don't have like brahmachari kings. He has to be grihasta, has family, manage all this wealth, manage all these things. He didn't want to do it, as it says in this verse. He didn't welcome that idea, because he was already fixed in Krishna consciousness, and he just wanted to perform his Krishna consciousness to the exclusion of everything else. But he was unwilling, and therefore Lord Brahma was brought in to help convince him. Lord Brahma is pretty big time, and Manu, he governs under the exegesis of Lord Brahma, and so you don't say no to Lord Brahma. And he's got 4 heads, a bunch of arms and stuff. Say, no thanks, Brahma. I'm just not into it. Oh, no, Lord Brahma. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Lord Brahma. So he accepted the position of becoming the emperor, and Maharaj Parikshit was amazed at this. That, how is it? I mean, he's a great devotee. Why would he give a flying flip about becoming the monarch? Why would he accept it? He's already self-realized. He's there. He's beyond any material consideration. And why would a devotee who's well established in Krishna consciousness, want to take on some material entanglement of any sort? And how could he do that and not be affected? That's also the question. That's the implication of that question. How could he get entangled like that and not have that compromise his Krishna consciousness? But because he's a great devotee, it does not compromise his Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada gives us amazing statements in here that, well, he has, he has wife and a family, but he's not attached to his wife. He's not attached to his children. But he dutifully educates the children, teaches them to become devotees. That's a really good one. That he speaks with sweet words, affectionate words to his wife, but he's not attached to her. That's why I threw that in, and the wife knows it. Yeah, you can tell. Like, he's not attached to me. Just, what kind of husband is this, right? But if she's on a similarly elevated platform of Krishna consciousness, she understands, because she's Krishna conscious, that the goal is not to have the husband be all attached, which ordinarily a wife thinks, a material wife. She wants that husband good and attached at every moment. She'd be calling him, texting him, emailing him, checking up on him. Maybe she even got a camera installed in his office. She wants to make sure that he's like on the straight and narrow, and that he's attached and dutiful and not deviating from his devotion to his wife. And then Prabhupada gives this another amazing statement about Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives, and all of them were extremely beautiful. Extremely beautiful. These are just not, Krishna just doesn't have Hollywood wives, or, babes from the pictures of some magazine or something like that. No, these are the most beautiful women in the universe, Krishna's wives. They're all of very high standard of Kshatriya, from Kshatriya families. And the Kshatriyas are the most beautiful people. They're very noble, they're handsome, they're gorgeous. The guys are all big, strong hunks, and the women are just like incredibly the most beautiful women imaginable. That's the Kshatriyas. And so what to speak of Kshatriyas, these are Krishna's Lakshmis, Lakshmi, Sahasra, Sata Sambramya Sevyamanam, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. These are expansions from Lakshmi, who expands from Radharani. And Radha, she is the most beautiful of all. But Krishna is he acts like a hen-pecked husband, Prabhupada says elsewhere, not in this report. And he performs his duties in relationship to his wife, and he has all these children. And it's described in the Krishna book how very early in the morning, when the cock begins to crow, I was staying with one devotee in Orlando, now former sannyasi, and the trailer he was living in this neighborhood, there were people that kept chickens in the neighborhood. So you'd hear the cocks crowing in the morning before dawn. And so that is the sign in both rural culture and in Vedic culture that one should rise from bed and begin to perform spiritual duties. So Krishna would begin to rise from bed, and the queens would grab him. Wait, don't go. They love Lord Krishna so much that they don't want to let him out of their embrace in bed. No, you stay here with me. But Krishna, exhibiting his pastimes of royal opulence in Dwarka, would nonetheless rise from bed. And then he would, we rise and we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The Krishna rises and he meditates on himself. Do not imitate this, or don't, as they say, don't try this at home. Don't meditate on yourself. You don't even know what yourself is practically. Unless you're a fully enlightened devotee, then you know the real self is the part and parcel of Krishna. But Krishna meditated on himself, and we meditate on Krishna, following in his footsteps. He's meditating on Krishna, we're meditating on Krishna. That is the idea. And then Prabhupada mentions in this purport very nicely about when a pure devotee, he's chanting Hare Krishna, and he hears Hare, and he hears Krishna. He's thinking of Krishna, and Krishna's pastimes actually become manifest within himself. Again, this is a very elevated platform of Krishna consciousness. It's not that, we're chanting cowherd boys, gopis, rasa dance, the moonlight at night in the forest, the malati flowers and the breezes blowing. If that's what you're trying to do with your japa, don't artificially try to do that. Don't be, as Prabhupada calls it, monkey jumping. Monkey just jumps up in the tree. What is the value of the monkeys jumping? So don't try to jump over. They also don't try to jump over the head of your spiritual master. Guru is there, and I'm just climbing up the guru and stepping on his head and getting to the next level. And then I've got to the next level and kick the guru away. My bodies are like that. That's what they think. And that was illustrated by a pastime of Srila Prabhupada's. They were walking in the rice fields in Mayapur. And, they have these rows, and there's an elevated row. You walk on the elevated part, but sometimes the dirt falls off to the side, and you could slip and fall into the ditch part. So one devotee held out his hand to Prabhupada to help him climb up on the embankment there. Prabhupada took his hand, he climbed up, and he pushed the devotee's hand away. Rather, violently. Slapped his hand away, and the devotee's like, what did I do? And then Prabhupada said, that is like the Mayavadi. They take the help of the guru, and as soon as they think they've attained something, then they kick the guru away. Pretty stark, huh? But Prabhupada was doing that as a teaching example, and the devotee was freaked out because Prabhupada was taking his hand and he slapped it away. Sorry, Prabhupada, what did I do? I was trying to help. So, but Prabhupada is using that as a preaching example. So one who is fixed up in Krishna consciousness, as is described here about the level of bhakti of Priyavrata Maharaj, he is always thinking of Krishna. So when he says Hare Krishna, he's thinking of Krishna. He's not like, mumbling his japa, and thinking about something else. Wow, what's for breakfast? How can I become more prominent and get some recognition from others? And, how can I profit somehow or other from this Krishna consciousness and make a nice collection for my pocket? But a real Vaishnava like Priyavrata, who's a very high level Vaishnava, that's why we love to hear about his activities, because he's such an elevated Vaishnava, due to the mercy of his guru, to whom he is so devoted and from whom he has imbibed these very powerful instructions on advancing in Krishna consciousness. So the example is given in the Bhagavatam of, there's the 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet, becoming the servant, becoming the friend, surrendering everything, worshiping the deity, the 9 processes. And then there is a corresponding personality who is the example of each process. Like the process of Shravanam, of hearing, is Maharaj Parikshit, who in this verse is hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. And Shukadeva Goswami is the exemplar chanting. He's speaking. And then Hanuman is the servant, and Bali Maharaj, Atma Nivedanam, he surrendered everything. But then there's one special devotee who is expert at all of these things, every process, and that is Maharaj Ambarish. And there are three very wonderful verses from the 9th canto, 4th chapter, which describe in detail this practice of all the different varieties of devotional service in perfection. And we'll read those. And that is stated, Savai Mana Krishna Padada Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanavarnane Kadau Harer Mandira Marjanadishu Shuchim Chakarat Chutya Satkathodaye Mukunda Lingai Lana Darshane Drishau Tadvritya Gatra Sparshing Sangangamam Grahanam Chavtat Pada Saroja Saurabe Srimat Tulasya Rasanam Tadarpite Padau Hare Kshetra Padanusarpane Shiro Hrishikesha Padabhivandane Kamanta Dasye Natu Kamakam Yaya Yatatamo Shloka Janashraya Ratihi. The translation is, Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. Savai Mana, Krishna, Padada Vindaye. Pada Aravinda. Pada means feet, Aravinda means lotus. So Savai Mana, his mind, was always engaged in meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, that's by Vachamsi, like Uvacha, Shri Shuka Uvacha. Uvacha means speaking. So that's described in the Sanskrit. Vachamsi, he's speaking, Vaikuntha Gunarnave, the qualities of the Lord, who is the glorious Lord of Vaikuntha. His hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, Mandira Marjanadishu. It's like we sing, Sri Vigrahara Dana Nichanana, Sringaratan Mandira Marjanadu. Mandira means the temple and Marjana means cleansing. So he engaged his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple. His ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna, that's Bhagavad Gita, or about Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of Tulsi offered to the Lord. Never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service. In various engagements to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. So this works for everyone. It works for you, works for me, anyone who does this. Yes, you too. If we are constantly engaged in various engagements, are dovetailed to the service of the Lord, then that is the way to increase attachment for Krishna and simultaneously, miraculously, and thank God wonderfully, to become completely free from all material desires. So our material desires are impediments to our devotional service. And the more we try to focus on pursuing our material desires, the more that keeps us from advancing in devotional service. And the more we perform all our activities for the pleasure of Krishna and the service of Krishna, that destroys our material desires. Which is explained in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that all the Hridyan Taksto Hyabhadrani, the abhadra, the inauspicious things in the heart, become destroyed practically to nil. And then as one advances, those material desires begin to dissipate and fall to the wayside. And then one is left in the pure Krishna conscious state with no impediment, nothing holding one back. But be advised, we should know that our material desires are strong and they're holding us in check from advancing in Krishna consciousness. What was that song by The Who? Magic Bus. I want it, I want it, I want it. You can't have it. You want to enjoy, I want to pursue my material desires, which are like weeds that choke off the creeper of devotion. But even if you pursue your material desires, you can't become happy. They won't fulfill you. This is the problem. Because it doesn't work. It's a doomed to failure process. So does an intelligent person engage himself in a doomed to failure endeavor, knowing well that it's doomed to fail? No. If he's convinced by hearing, by realization, by associating with devotees, that this process of trying to fulfill material desires is a futile process that leads not to happiness and not to fulfillment, but it is an impediment to our Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says in the purport to these three verses in the 9th canto, in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord recommends Maya Sakta Manaparta Yogam Yunjan Madashrayaha. That one must render devotional service under the guidance of a devotee, spiritual master, or directly under the guidance of the Supreme Lord, but it is not possible to train oneself without guidance from a spiritual master. And he mentions the instructions of Rupa Goswami. Guda Padashraya, one must take shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. So that's some good stuff there. Great verses, they're very famous verses. So becoming connected to Krishna through the process of bhakti, it purifies the heart and the mind and cleanses the desires for abhadra, unwanted things. And then, according to another nice verse in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, a verse that I've always loved a lot, it's stated by the sages at Namarshanya, Evam prasana manaso, that when one becomes attached to Krishna and accustomed to hearing and chanting about Krishna and purifying himself, evam thus, pranasa manaso, the mind becomes enlivened in Krishna consciousness through Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha, by performing Bhakti Yoga to Bhagavan. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, and in this process of performing devotional service, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, one achieves positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. Tattva means truth, and Vijnana means thorough realization. One gets thorough realization about the truth of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. Mukta Sangasya Jayate. Thus one becomes liberated, Mukta Sangasya, from all unwanted things. Mukta Sangasya Jayate. Jayate means victory or conquering over unwanted things. Liberated. There's another verse in the 12th canto. Kirtanariva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Brajet. Mukta Sangha, one becomes liberated from all bad association. There's different types of Sangha. There's Sadhu Sangha, the association of devotees, that is highly desirable. But Asat Sangha, that is highly undesirable. Therefore, the verse that we love to quote, Asat Sangha Tyag, E Vaishnavachar. The particular quality of a devotee is that Asat Sangha Tyag, he gives up the association of Asat, those who are not devotees. I mean, we have to interact with the world, and we give people Krishna consciousness, and we do so many things. We got the Mexican guys coming and doing construction on the bathroom, which they just finished, by the way. And, the roofer guy, and then, it's Asat. But we don't, take them into our heart and take them into our inner circle of confidence. But in the process of them working, getting paid, still they get some purification through that association of devotees. And some of them take prasad. Like Rohit Nath, our air conditioner guy, from the island of Fiji, they are accustomed to things like eating fish, for example. Because they're on an island in the ocean, the fish are all swimming around the island. They're surrounded by it. But he comes here and he does work for us on the air conditioning and heating systems. And much of the work he does for free. A lot he does for free. And then we always offer him, come to the restaurant and take prasad, and we'll give you prasad. Thank you for helping us here, please take prasad. And he does that most enthusiastically. He loves to come take prasad. So he doesn't mind doing the work for free, as long as he gets his prasad, which he knows he's going to get. So that's a nice reciprocation. He was telling me a story about eating fish. I won't repeat it here, but I was like, oh boy. So, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, one receives positive scientific knowledge of the truth of Krishna consciousness. And the more one understands about that truth of Krishna consciousness, the more one becomes eager to push forward and go further, go deeper into the realms of bhakti, into the realms of relationship with Krishna, into the realms of purification. That is highly desirable. And also Krishna speaks elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Janma karma chime devyam evam yoveti tattvataha. When you understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's janma, his appearance, his karma, his activities, his pastimes, chime divyam, which are all transcendental, then evam yoveti tattvataha. If you understand these things in truth, then at the end of this life, you don't take another body. No more birth. Naitima meti sarjana, rather you come back to Krishna, if you know in truth. And then there's one more verse that mentions the nature of the truth that I'd like to bring out, which is from the Mahabharata. There are not a lot of verses that are quoted by Srila Prabhupada from the Mahabharata, although it is an extensive work of 100,000 shlokas. But one shloka he's very fond of quoting is Tarko Pratishta Shrutayo Vibina Nashavarshir Yashyam Natam Nabinam Dharmasya Tatvam Nihitam Guhayam Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta. That Tarko Pratishta, that just by Tarko, arguments, speculation, one cannot understand the truth. Nashabya Yasha Natam Nabinam. And then one cannot really truly be known as a rishi or a muni unless he has his own philosophy, speculates in his own way. So you don't understand the truth in that way. But where is the truth? Where do you find the truth? Dharmasya tattvam. the truth of Dharma, of religion, Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Guhayam. It is very confidential and it is hidden within the heart of the self-realized souls. Therefore, you have to keep association with self-realized souls, and that will rub off on you. And the conclusion is of that verse, Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta. Therefore, one has to follow in the footsteps of the great authorities. Swayambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Kamara, Kapilo, Manu, Prahlada, Janako, Bhishmo, Bali, Vaya, Sakir, Vayam. The 12 Mahajans. One has to follow in their footsteps. And in the footsteps of Maharaj Ambarish. And then one can attain that Dharmasya Tattvam, that truthful understanding of the supreme knowledge, transcendental knowledge, which Krishna is revealing in Bhagavad Gita and further explicated in the Bhagavatam. And also there's a verse in the Brahma Samhita, text number 28, which is the last verse before he begins the Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami verses. First one is text 29, Chintamani Prakarasad Matsukalpa Viksha. And that verse 28 is a preface to Brahma expressing his realizations in the Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami series of verses. Traya Prabodhata Vidhir Vigata Tatvasagaraha Tushtava Vedasarena Strotana Nina Keshavam. That Traya Prabodhata Vidhir, that Vidhi, Lord Brahma, means one who knows. Trayo Prabodhata Vidhir. He had full realization of the truth of the Traya, the three Vedas. Here, Vigata Tatvasagaraha. Sagara means the ocean. Tatvasagara, the ocean of truth. I always wanted to dive into the waves of that ocean. Go to the shore and dive into the waves of that. Tatvasagaraha. Vigata Tatvasagara. He had full realization of all the ocean of truth of Krishna consciousness. Tushtava Vedasarena. Therefore, Vedasara, which is also mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam is Vedasara, the cream of the Vedas. Tushtava Vedasarena. He had extracted the essence, the cream of Vedic knowledge. Strotanani Nikeshavam, and thus he began to chant the prayers about Govinda. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, Vigata, full realization, Tattva of the ocean of truth. Bhaktisiddhanta translate said, he became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. The vast expanse, like the ocean, you look out at the ocean, it's a vast expanse. So the ocean of truth is a vast expanse of truth. And he became fully acquainted, fully understanding, fully realizing, fully tasting that ocean of truth. So Krishna consciousness is meant to awaken our desire to taste that, to become fully acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth, following the footsteps of the head of our Sampradaya, Lord Brahma. He's a great example to follow. And he is one of the 12 Mahajans. Swayambhu, he's the first one mentioned. Swayambhu means he who is self-born. That's Lord Brahma. No mother, no father, born atop the lotus flower, sprouted from the navel of the Lord Vishnu. So he has no material parents. Doesn't have an ordinary birth. He's Swayambhu, self-born. All right, so we'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations? I could go on, but I ran out of the verses I had for today. Yes, Chandrika.
So when we take to spiritual life, like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, I think in the ninth chapter that we should become neutral to materialism. So
Become what?
neutral.
Oh, neutral. Okay.
So as we become neutral, is that a form of like detachment?
Well, yes, it's very much given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. The one who is unattached to the fruits of his activities and performs everything for the service of Krishna is the real sannyasi, not one who doesn't light any fire or perform any work. He who lights no fire and performs no work. No, everyone is going to be engaged in some activity. That activity has to be done for Krishna. But working in the spirit of detachment, like the statement is given by Krishna, that you're entitled to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to be the enjoyer of the results. What? Hold on. You work, you get paid. Just got paid today. Got me a pocket full of change. No. Your work is meant to please Krishna, to satisfy Krishna. That is the result. And the result that you accrue, you think, yes, now I can enjoy for myself personally. Thank you very much. No, you're entitled to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to the results. And this attachment of thinking that I am the doer and I am the enjoyer, it is very difficult to give that up. Why is it difficult? Because we are very accustomed to that mentality of trying to be the enjoyer. And not only are we accustomed to it in this life, but we've been accustomed to it for billions of lifetimes. And not all in human form of life, by any means. So, we got bad habits, we're trained up. We're conditioned souls. We want to be the enjoyer. But to work in the consciousness that everything I'm doing, I'm working under the order of the spiritual master for the pleasure of Krishna. That's all. That's all. And when Prabhupada was asked, what is the essence of Krishna consciousness? What is a very quintessential understanding of Krishna consciousness? It is that Krishna is the master and I am his servant. Very simply put. Very eloquently. That's explained in the Chaitanya Church and Rita, that real eloquence is essential truth expressed very succinctly. So that's the fact. Krishna is the master and I am his servant. That satisfy your question? Anyone else? Thank you very much. That was good. All right, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.